Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're working on your Wednesday asynchronous class of 2024. I wanted to just walk through quickly the instructions for today as you are continuing to focus on pre-work and creating tutorials for either your Tuesday or Thursday tutorial session in Avid 9. So what we're asking you to do today was first, layer a focused note. You could have either chosen the note that you took about the guest speakers, the Avid team members that came into your Wicker class period and talked to you on Zoom. You could choose to layer a note in one of your other 4 classes that would benefit you in your understanding and your remembering and repetition of content you learned in one of your classes other than Avid. Whichever it was, you should have seen on Schoology the 5 steps of layering and processing your notes and completed those steps, and then submit either a picture of your physical notes or a digital copy of your notes to Schoology, and then your Avid teacher will be grading that. The second thing we're asking you to do today during asynchronous work is to continue to investigate how to get prepared for a tutorial for whenever you are on Zoom tutorials this year. What we're going to ask you to do is follow this document that is linked into your asynchronous work for Wednesday. And the first thing you're going to do is look at pages 2 and 3 of this document and mark up the text. We're going to ask you to highlight information that will help you learn how to prepare to create your own TRF. And then you should either put a question mark or an exclamation point next to the sections of each part of the tutorial pre-work. For example, in this first section, I crossed out question number 1 because you only get a point instead of 2 points if you create a question that has nothing to do with some sort of connection to tutorials. You really want to make sure you're pulling something from an assignment, quiz, test, or notes that includes a source. I would go through each section of this tutorial and mark up what's important onto how I can get full points for a section. So the first line always tells you how you would get half credit. The second one tells you how you would earn full credit. So you want to make sure you're focusing on that second line for each section of the tutorial. The other thing we are going to ask you to do is for each section, put either a question mark or a exclamation point next to the parts to determine whether or not you understand that well. That will help us Avid teachers know where we need to dig in, as well as the tutors where they need to dig in to support you in creating your own TRF. So for key academic vocabulary and definitions, maybe this makes a lot of sense to me. I'm going to just mark really easy an exclamation point next to this section because I get it. If I'm a little bit confused about the initial question, maybe I'm wondering about it, I'm going to put a question mark there and maybe even say, what if I have a question about a life skill? Like, what if I'm thinking, hey, I want to ask a question about a bigger life skill, like maybe studying habits for classes in general, and I'm worried that that means I wouldn't get full points for that. Put your questions that you have for each section of the tutorial next to your question mark. What I know about my question as I look through, I might say, yes, that makes sense to me. But then maybe when I get down to critical thinking and I look through this, critical thinking can be really confusing. Maybe this is again where I decide that I need to actually put a question mark and explain why I'm a little bit confused with critical thinking. And I would write out my explanation why. So this is for you to be able to look over how you would be graded for the pre-work that you create for a tutorial. The second thing we want to do, step 2 then, is to view the example tutorial given to us by a student in 9th grade. It's an English tutorial. Read through this example tutorial. So pages 4 and 5 come to us from a student named Jacob Little from Ms. Howard's class who's explaining to us some 9th grade English information. Your job is to read their practice or their makeup tutorial. And using what you just learned from pages 2 and 3, we want you to actually pretend to be the tutor and grade this TRF. Determine what point would you give this student out of 50 for the tutorial that they just completed. Once you've done those 2 things, you are good to go for today for your tutorial work. And then we will also be checking in with you about your pre-work and how to prepare for that next week for your tutorial session. Thanks. Have a great day.